I'm David Lloyd. We have breaking news into SportsCenter. Adam Schefter reporting that John Harbaugh is out as Ravens coach after 18 seasons. He was the second longest tenured coach in the league behind the guy who beat him Sunday night, Mike Tomlin. Harbaugh won a Super Bowl in the 2012 season, but is 4-7 in the playoffs since. And let's bring in Adam and our NFL analyst, Mina. Bit of a surprise, guys. Adam, what more can you tell us about why Harbaugh is out in Baltimore?
Well, David, we've been talking about this since Sunday, and while many people were focused on Mike Tomlin's future, it always felt like the coach to focus on here was John Harbaugh. And the Ravens lost on Sunday night, which sped up the timetable on these conversations about the direction that the organization and John Harbaugh both wanted to take. The Ravens owner, Steve Bisciotti, was in the building today to meet with John Harbaugh, and he wanted to take the organization in a different direction. After watching John Harbaugh coach his team for 18 seasons, it was time for Steve Bisciotti to take back his team and to set John Harbaugh free. I expect John Harbaugh to be the most in-demand coach in this cycle with multiple opportunities. He will be able to go wherever he wants, basically, to get a head coaching job. Baltimore now embarks on its own head coaching search, but Steve Bisciotti felt like this was the right thing to do at this particular time. The two sides went their own ways, and now John Harbaugh becomes the most in-demand coaching free agent out there.
Mina, anytime a coach who's won a Super Bowl is let go, or there's a mutual parting of the ways, or whatever we characterize this as, a guy who's been there that long, it's big news. What's your reaction to this move?
I mean, this is stunning given his resume, the Super Bowl, obviously, but I think back to during the beginning of the Lamar Jackson era, how well he managed that, the change of the offense midseason, the hires he made, moving on from Greg Roman for Todd Monken. He hired Mick McDonald, who, of course, has now gone on to be one of the best head coaches in football. His record is tremendous. That said, in recent years, this team has missed out on the playoffs in a litany of, frankly, excruciating ways that have felt like execution errors in big moments, drops, fumbles, the missed kick. Remember, Harbaugh's a special teams guy. You can't blame the head coach. He didn't fumble the ball or drop it or miss the kick himself, but at a certain point, it does fall at his feet. So it is understandable, even though it is shocking. And I, of course, echo Adam's sentiment. He's incredibly desirable as a head coaching candidate. I imagine he will have his pick of the open jobs. And I would also say I think this Baltimore job, though, becomes the most desirable of the coaching jobs, and there's going to be quite a competition for that one.
And Adam, I got to ask you this question. There have been whispers for the last few weeks about Harbaugh and Lamar not getting along. Did that factor into this decision in any way?
I just think it's an overall directional issue for the Ravens and for John Harbaugh. I think after 18 years, people feel like maybe it's time to try something new. And I don't think it's a Lamar Jackson issue. I'm sure perhaps it contributed to it. I think it was a little bit unusual for Lamar Jackson not to come out and at least endorse his coach the other night. But I don't believe that's what drove this in the end. I think there were a number of factors. I think it was a lot of different things after 18 years. And they came so close to getting over the hump in each of the last 3 years. We had Zay Flowers drop the ball at the goal line against the Chiefs in the conference or the AFC Championship game. We had Mark Andrews drop on the two-point conversion last year. We had Tyler Loop's missed field goal. And sometimes you feel like you're knocking on the door and you're not getting in, and it's time to make a change. John Harbaugh is going to go on and thrive elsewhere. I expect him to get a head coaching job. I expect him to emerge as a favorite for the New York Giants head coaching job. I expect him to be in demand in other places. Again, as Mina said, he's going to have his choice here of where he wants to go and what he wants to do. And the Ravens felt like it was just time for a fresh start. We've seen this everywhere. We had similar shock when the Patriots moved on from Bill Belichick. This is the biggest coaching move since New England moved on from Bill Belichick, and it's not for altogether dissimilar reasons.
Let's go to that Baltimore job now. I mean, as you said, it's the most appealing one out there. Can you think of any names that would be a good fit for a team like that, the way the roster is comprised with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback?
I would love a defensive coach here, and I'll throw out two names. The first one is Brian Flores. The Minnesota Vikings defense finished third league-wide in DVOA, and the defenses around them, I would say, have considerably more star power, but Flores has been the difference there. The defense in Baltimore has serious issues. They have talent, but I think he could inject some creativity and allow them to improve on that side of the ball in a way that's necessary. I also think Jesse Minter with the Los Angeles Chargers, who is from the Mike McDonald tree, right, in Michigan, would be a good choice. I think he is similarly to Flores, slightly different scheme, but he has done a fantastic job there, again, with some talent limitations, and he has elevated the players. And that's another name I would be looking at if I was Baltimore, and I would go in that direction.
Good names all. Adam, you got any that you can think of?
Yeah, I think Jesse Minter is a spot-on nomination, selection, discussion, because he's been there before, and we've seen Mike McDonald coach in Baltimore and go on to great success in Seattle. That bodes well for Jesse Minter, his candidacy, and I would figure that he would absolutely be a candidate in Baltimore. Another coach that I expect to get interviewed for that job will be the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, who's also spent time in Baltimore before. He will be another name that garners some consideration in Baltimore. We'll see what direction they go, but there's going to be a lot of candidates that want that job, just like there's going to be a lot of teams that want John Harbaugh.
Again, the fallout from this momentous decision is twofold. A, as you guys have pointed out, the Ravens immediately become a very attractive job, and John Harbaugh immediately becomes a very attractive candidate for the 6 head coaching jobs that are out there right now. In addition to Baltimore, that's Las Vegas, the Giants, Tennessee, Cleveland, Arizona, Atlanta, and Baltimore. Thank you, guys. All right, you take a look at this and what's happened in the course of John Harbaugh's career and in the course of this season. Remember, the Ravens were a preseason co-favorite to win it all, but they stumbled to this 8-9 record. They are the first preseason favorite to miss the playoffs since the 2008 Patriots, and that was the year Tom Brady tore his ACL in Week 1. Schefter reports that in the 45 minutes after he was fired, his agent fielded calls from 7 interested teams. Keep in mind, there are only 6 other openings. I'm not sure how you make up for that 7th one, but that's all conjecture. Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti just released a statement. This was an incredibly difficult decision, given the tremendous 18 years we've spent together and the profound respect I have for John as a coach and, most importantly, as a great man of integrity. Throughout what I firmly believe is a Hall of Fame coaching career, John has delivered a Super Bowl championship to Baltimore and served as a steadfast pillar of humility and leadership. Our NFL insider, Dan Graziano, and our NFL analyst, Peter Schrager, here for much more on this. Dan, start with you. What more can you tell us about how this went down and why ultimately John Harbaugh is out in Baltimore?
An exceedingly disappointing season in Baltimore, David, where the Ravens were a preseason Super Bowl favorite that finished 8-9 and was eliminated from playoff contention on Sunday night with a loss to the rival Steelers, their second loss to the Steelers down the stretch. So John Harbaugh and the Ravens meet today, and the owner informs him that he's going to move on. Now, there had been conversations about potential staff changes. It's conceivable that John Harbaugh was opposed to those. Oftentimes when we see a move like this, that is part of the reason. There had been, some conversations in recent weeks about Lamar Jackson's contract situation. 2 years left on the contract, due for an extension, cap number going up next year. How do they handle that? There are a lot of decisions being made in the Ravens building about the direction of the franchise, and the decision that was made today is that the team and John Harbaugh weren't aligned on some of those, so they end up parting ways. To the point you made in your intro there, if 7 teams called with interest in Harbaugh and there are only 6 other openings, that means there is at least 1 team who has not yet fired its head coach that would consider doing so if it found out Harbaugh was interested. So that tells you what kind of candidate has just jumped into this year's head coach job market.
Wow. It kind of feels like a Mike Vrabel deal all over again. A really good coach out, and then teams jump on him. Peter, what can you add or what can you tell us about today's news?
What's interesting is I think everybody, Dan, myself, Adam, Greeny in the mornings, have discussed this wasn't going to be some abrupt fissure. This was going to be a long discussion and a mutual parting of ways. It was an abrupt fissure, and it happened today. They had a meeting, and I can tell you that multiple coaches on staff, multiple staff members were completely caught off guard when Adam tweeted out the news that John Harbaugh was being let go and they were parting ways. So much so that team president Sashi Brown was the person that was communicating the message to a lot of people working inside that building. What's that tell you? That they went into this conversation, a lot of people thinking, yeah, there's smoke out there, but is there really fire? I don't know. Let's see if we can work it out. This will take a couple of days and there'll be discussions. It seemed like there were some conversations, and to Dan Graziano's point he just made, the direction of the franchise, it sounds like this is going to now be in the hands of Steve Bisciotti, Eric DeCosta, and Sashi Brown, the team president.
Okay, guys, so throw out some names of again, they have Lamar Jackson on this roster. They have a really solid roster of players. It's one of the reasons why they were the preseason Super Bowl favorite. Dan, what do you know about who might want that position and who might be in the running for that spot?
Well, I think a lot of people will want it. It's tough to know for sure because the Ravens haven't done this in 18 years, so we don't have tendencies or anything like that to work off of. Names that are flying around, and look, these are speculative at this point. It's early in the process. You know, Cliff Kingsbury let go today by Washington as their offensive coordinator, has experience as a head coach and coordinator with mobile quarterbacks. Some of the candidates that have been out there, names like Vance Joseph in Denver, Brian Flores in Minnesota. Jesse Minter is the Chargers defensive coordinator. He has ties to Mike McDonald, who was in Baltimore before he became head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. The two of them worked together at Michigan. So I'm just sort of looking around and trying to find connections, as are a lot of people. Conceivable and certainly likely that the Ravens have a list of people in mind, and I'm sure that that'll come to light in the coming days. But it should be a desirable job, except for the fact that you have to follow a franchise legend who might be going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, the fallout from this is twofold. Not only does a really appealing job open up in Baltimore, but here you have a tremendous candidate in John Harbaugh for the other spots. Peter, any sort of intel you have on what that might look like?
I mean, John Harbaugh to the Giants makes a whole lot of sense from the Giants' standpoint. They have a team that is 4 Lombardi trophies in the cases, in the hallways. They have a franchise quarterback. They have a number 1 wide receiver. They have 2 running backs, and they have a stable of pass rushers to go. And I think Giants fans would be doing flips for that. I am under the impression the Giants would be very open to that. Would Harbs want to go and do the same thing that Tom Coughlin did, where he got Jacksonville all the way and then was let go from the Jaguars and then moved to the Giants and got them over the top? That's the question for him. Atlanta's obviously very interesting. I'll throw out a team that I haven't seen mentioned yet, but worth noting. The Arizona Cardinals, whose general manager, Monty Ossenfort, has a long history with Baltimore. And in an Arizona market where the expectations and the standards and the pressure might not be as high, and an owner who, quite frankly, might be okay with the fact that the Baltimore Ravens might be paying some of John Harbaugh's salary, it becomes a very interesting opportunity out there in Arizona where the pressure is not even nearly as high as it would be in New York City.
It certainly has changed the calculus of this entire coaching search across the NFL. There's a lot of teams in play, and who knows where John Harbaugh may wind up or who may be the new Ravens head coach. By the way, it's been so long since Harbaugh was hired in Baltimore. Brian Billick was his predecessor. Some of our younger viewers may not even know that name. It's been a long time. Big news today in the NFL.
He won Super Bowl II.
He sure did. He sure did. Great coach. Guys, we do appreciate the time. Harbaugh did release a statement which said, in part, gratitude to the owner and organization who was willing to bring in a head coach who made his mark with special team success. Appreciation for all the moments, all these years that are etched into eternity. Our Ravens reporter, Jameson Hensley, has been covering the team for 26 years. He joins us now. Jameson, what can you share with us about this surprising news with John Harbaugh?
Yeah, David, I spoke to someone close to John Harbaugh just minutes ago. He said that John is at peace with this decision. John believes this is best for both parties and that it was time for a reset, including Lamar Jackson. And someone did point out to me that the removal of John Harbaugh as coach, it's not coincidental that it comes in the year where they need to redo Lamar Jackson's contract. His salary cap number goes up to $74.5 million this offseason. And also, just to give you a kind of an idea of how quickly this all transpired today, that John Harbaugh wasn't had time to inform his staff of his departure. It was actually done by General Manager Eric DeCosta and Ravens President Sashi Brown. They were the ones who delivered the news to Harbaugh's staff.
Well, that's an odd little nugget there in the midst of all of this, especially for a guy who's been there that long. What can you tell us about where the Ravens go from here, Jameson?
Yeah, that's the big question, and I can tell you, I was there the last time the Ravens made a change at head coach. It was 18 years ago. I was here at the Ravens facility, as you can see right behind me, and it took over 20 days for the Ravens to hire John Harbaugh. I expect it could be a similar thorough search because this is a team that is a Super Bowl ready roster, and I believe they will go and look for a very established coach because this is not a time to rebuild. It is the time to win now. Someone did tell me threw out the name Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator, saying he has the right temperament to come in with a team that is ready to win and take over. But we'll have to see. I just know Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti, just to show you how difficult a decision it was for him, he has told me over the years that, you know what, he doesn't ever want to have to hire another coach. But as we saw today, that's exactly what he did.
Great insight from Jameson Hensley there with the Ravens as we continue to process the news that John Harbaugh is out in Baltimore.